Welcome to Innovate, presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today, we're delighted to have our guest and a friend, somebody I know for a long time, Blake Kuhre. Blake, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you, my friend. And Blake happened to be an amazing entrepreneur. I watched his journey, and he's going to tell us all about it for so many years, and only just going up. Kuhre also the CEO and co-founder of Labs. We're going to talk about Labs, and I guess I would leave the mic up to you. Just give us a small introduction, a bit about your insights and background and expertise, and let's dive into it.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Bob. Really pleasure to
My
be
pleasure.
here. For me, it kind of all started. I grew up in Texas. That's kind of my home state. No matter what, it'll always be my home state. I have fond memories of it. I think really we're growing up in your environment in which you are raised does have a lot to shape who you are.
Correct.
Pretty much for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. Sometimes some upbringings are better than others. For me, I grew up in a middle class household, nothing special. I was born in San Antonio and moved to Dallas in the late '80s when my dad actually got a job with American Airlines at that time. Dallas, Fort Worth is headquarters for American. And Bob Crandall was the CEO then, and some of you may remember him as sort of the pioneer of the frequent flyer program. He came up with the Advantage frequent flyer program. I say that because that has been a sort of a hobby of mine up until recently.
I was going to say, you remember this, the CEO.
Yeah, well, I mean, you hear your dad, you hear your parents talk about things growing up, and you hear names tossed around, and so that kind of stuck with me. And there's still people. People in the industry are very familiar with him, and he's sort of a legend. And every now and then I'll throw his name out whenever I'm flying, and people are like, "Oh yeah, oh wow, that takes me way back." But anyway, after Dallas, I kind of realized Dallas is a pretty flashy city. Let's be honest. I think they kind of position themselves as Hollywood or Los Angeles of the South in many ways.
Dallas is very bougie. Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, you're in Houston. Houston is more down to earth. I think, I love Houston too.
Oil and gas.
Yes. And of course, Dallas had a TV show. So anyway, I think that upbringing was pretty instrumental in my life. I was fortunate to have, a really great teacher in high school who kind of showed me the ropes when it came to television production. And it was a very unique environment in which I grew up for high school. I was part of a school, K through 12 school, that was actually a part of a mega church at the time. A huge televangelist ended up having a scandal, unfortunately, and didn't last very long. But at that time, it was a really incredible opportunity because it allowed me to learn the ropes of everything from, and that back then, Betacam SP, working with professional equipment like SSL audio, a huge church, a huge amphitheater. So I learned all these, these traits and these tools. And Rick Appleby, actually, he was the one who kind of got me started. And I was fortunate that I got that because that sort of sowed the seed for the rest of my career and the rest of my life. He was actually also instrumental in having a real big, strong passion for the Walt Disney Company. And he would kind of include that in a lot of his teachings. And so, I kind of put that in the back of my head, and I thought, maybe one day I'll work for Disney at some point, not knowing that I eventually did do that. I went on to university at the University of Missouri, Columbia, and they have one of the strongest journalism schools in the world. I think they're the oldest in the world. And I sought it out because I wanted to. Yeah, it's interesting. There's Northwestern, very strong program, Syracuse, NYU, Kansas to a degree, Arizona State. These are all pretty powerful journalism schools. But Missouri is special in the sense that they have what's called the Missouri method. And that is you practice by doing, so you're not just learning theory, you actually are going out and not just in a typical, like say college TV station or radio station. No, they actually own the NBC affiliate for that market for Columbia, Missouri, which is extremely unusual. They're the only one to have a university to own a commercial network affiliate television station. So I thought, this is a great opportunity for me to, learn the ropes and practice, writing, shooting, editing, anchoring, reporting. And that's exactly what I did. And, I would work 12-hour shifts throughout my university career. I ended up going places all over the state, Missouri and the Shami state, and then ended up going even to Switzerland for a documentary that I ended up doing with the embassy. There was a long program. That was sort of my first overseas trip that I got to experience. That really did change my life too. I think overseas travel, that was the first time that I did that. So after university, I thought, I was sort of at a crossroads as I was doing television news at small market, of course. And on the side, I was also doing radio for the top 40 station in Columbia, Missouri, Y107, still around. I was doing nights 7 to midnight. So I would basically go on the air from 7 to midnight, play top 40 music that was around from, say, 2001 to 2004. Which was a great time, by the way, for pop music, I believe, today. And, I thought, what am I going to do next? Because, I have this choice to make. It's sort of a fork in the road. Do I go into radio or do I go into small market TV news? And I thought, storytelling is the most important thing that's always attracted me, throughout my career to whatever I'm doing. And I think if you can harness the power, and when it comes to radio, as a theater of the mind, which is kind of what it is. You're imagining, a particular place or a particular mood, and there's so many songs that are indeed stories. So that kind of like set me off on a career within radio for quite some time. I decided, I'm going to do this. Why? Because I didn't have to put on a suit every day. And get down on my hands and knees and get shots and then go back and edit the station and then be up for 12 hours and do all these things and chase around sources. And it's a lot of hard work. I mean, news has come a long way. It's changed. But I thought radio would definitely suit me best. And so I ended up getting, right out of school, say 6 months after graduating, a job at ABC Radio, part of the Walt Disney Company. And it was a country format. It was in Dallas, Texas, my hometown. So I thought, this is a huge market leap. I might as well take the shot. This is something that I'm not going to be able to maybe have for a while. Who knows? I can go home. I can live at home. I can save money. And so I was doing nights there. It was the top 40 formatted country station. So it wasn't your typical, honky tonk, old school country. This was like young country. And it was a really great station, 96.7 The Twister. And it was a lot of fun. I got to, meet an incredible amount of talent and artists. And for someone growing up in Texas, I didn't really embrace country music until I started working on it. And I realized that format is such a powerful format. I mean, the songs themselves are literally all stories. And intelligible stories, like you can actually understand the lyrics, which you not necessarily can in a lot of songs today. So that really did kind of, I think, give me a new appreciation for a genre of music that I otherwise wouldn't have had. And then there was another pivotal moment that happened in 2005. The outgoing CEO of Walt Disney Company, Michael Eisner, who essentially built it up to what it was or what it is today, was leaving the company. And they had a falling out, and there's books written about this. But Bob Iger was going to take over. And so when that happened, this was in the Wall Street Journal, I read it in the summer of 2005. Basically, Bob decided he was going to divest ABC Radio from the Walt Disney Company. I thought, oh, damn, this means like I'm not going to be at Disney anymore. I got to stay somehow. I got to maneuver. And so that's what I did. I actually found out they were going to keep ESPN and Radio Disney. Those two formats only. Oddly enough, that Radio Disney existed in Dallas, Texas, which I also didn't know. The headquarters was there at that time. So I was able to negotiate out of my contract and move over to Radio Disney. Got a little bit of a pay bump, got a syndicated nationwide show as opposed to just a local, Dallas-based show. And so I did nights and weekends there. And I also didn't think much of that at the time either, but it came around, this was when High School Musical took off. and this is when Hannah Montana took off. And these huge Disney Channel shows and movies were really starting to take hold. Granted, this is also before the iPhone, so I think that this was sort of the swan song of the radio industry, because the iPhone was launched in 2007. So people were still getting their music, their a lot of their discovery from radio, and particularly
Radio,
kids.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, and really, if you look at what it is today, podcasting is just radio on demand. I mean, that's essentially what it is. I've had a lot of people say, well, why don't you just do podcasts? Why don't you? You know what? There's always a time for that. I think if I could have done it earlier, probably would have had, something that would have been, pretty successful. But I was too busy focused on tech. But anyway, so Disney was great. They just decided, we're going to move you guys out of Dallas because, the problem is we want you to have access to all these talents, from Miley Cyrus to Jonas Brothers to Demi Lovato to Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens. I mean, everyone from 2005 to 2013 basically came through my studio, interviewed them, played their music, promoted their shows, promoted their music, promoted their concerts, their movies. Synergy. I mean, Disney is known for this, and I learned really what synergy is all about there too. But they decided, we're going to move you to Burbank at the seat of power, which to me, this is also sort of interesting. All of my colleagues that were there at that time were offered to move to Burbank, to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And only 3 accepted, which I thought, so I was one of those 3. How many times are you going to get a red carpet rolled out for you to move to Hollywood? I mean, essentially. You can always go back to where you came from, but wouldn't you regret maybe not taking that opportunity? And I just didn't want that to be one. And I'd already started going out to LA for press junkets and movie premieres to help promote whatever the movie that was at the time. And so I started to get more and more familiar with LA and Hollywood, and I was
got
never
a little attached.
Yeah, I mean, I think more familiar. I think that's really what it was. And there's so many that are starstruck by it. Even today, I think we're in the second golden age of entertainment.
Yes.
To be sure.
Yes.
So there's still plenty of people out here. I mean, TikTok has their U.S. headquarters out here. This is still a very aspiring place to be, despite all of its problems for the entertainment industry and despite all of the changes that it's going through. But yeah, I mean, the weather. That was what my old boss told me. Like, people you are paying for the weather. You will pay for the weather. It is that kind of a city where you will enjoy the environment, but you're going to pay for it. And that's for sure. Texas to California is massive. Everyone said, "Oh, why are you coming out here? Everyone's moving to Texas. So you did the opposite." Well, I mean,
now it is.
Yeah, that's really kind of started 5 years ago. But for me, moving out here was back in 2008. So, it's almost been 17 years, which is another thing they didn't tell you. They didn't tell me that time flies really fast here. And I think it's because there's no seasons. There are just no seasons. The weather is pretty much the same year round with the exception of the winter. So you get used to this feeling like vacation every day. It really does feel like that. When I'm asked, how do you like living there? And that's what I say. And I said that from the beginning. I still believe it today. I can't fault it. So, Disney was a great opportunity. I was there, left on my 10th anniversary, and I did so because as much as I really appreciate what the company does, it is a slow-moving ship, and I just had a burning desire to move faster. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do quicker that just weren't being done. Take, for example, cord cutting. That's something that I don't think it was even really addressed or thought of seriously there up until Disney Plus was launched. And that was just not even 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yes.
So, this was back in 2012 when I started seeing it. So that's where I said, I'm going to go in the startup world. I think it's just a faster pace and it suits me better. So on my 10th anniversary, I left to the day and ended up crowdfunding a documentary in Argentina about cats in this cemetery in Buenos Aires. I did a Kickstarter for it, raised money for it, launched a nonprofit to help these cats that were there. It was just something I saw on a trip many years ago, and I just thought, man, who's taking care of them? It was the story. Again, going back to stories, I wanted to find out that story. I was, in the back burner for years. So I finally fulfilled that, checked that off the list. Hosted a nationwide morning show, checked that off the list. But then I thought, startups is not something I have done. So fortunately, I ended up joining the company where I met you, New Zulu.
New Zulu, yes.
Which was the precursor.
How do you came across them? I mean, startups weren't as popular as now. Now, easy to find a startup. You go on LinkedIn, you go on Crunch. How did you come across them?
I saw a posting somewhere, and
Yeah.
I, applied. Basically, it was for breaking content or breaking news live streaming manager, essentially.
I came across them in France. That's how I came across them. I
really?
was in one of the convention, yes. I was one of the convention.
okay.
And by luck, I don't know how, I think I met Sarah where she was representing them. And then you guys had a booth there. I wasn't sure if there's a booth or not. I don't remember.
We did a
Yes.
lot of road shows. That sounds about right. I mean,
Yes.
we did
Yeah.
NAB in Las
Yeah.
Vegas. We did a couple of other like journalism focused conferences and trade shows. And that's to be expected with a startup, to do this, to be visible. And definitely had a lot of interest. I mean, that company was well ahead of its time. Essentially
Correct.
using live view, which is the gold standard now for live streaming news for professional outlets for that end. It's an Israeli company. Basically, they bond cellular networks together so you can stream a high quality video signal, which we took essentially their SDK and put it into an app and made it a B2B app for stations and networks, and then a B2C app for citizen journalists, which also now is commonplace. 10 years ago, not as much. And so
Yes.
I think that really taught me about timing, because when it comes to startups, you definitely don't want to be too late where the market's saturated with whatever you're doing. You don't want to
Yeah.
be too early either. It's just as bad, unfortunately. It's very frustrating to be early. But being right on time is the best. But I think I'd rather be early than late, because at least early you can prepare. And that's kind of where I'm at now with my company. It's starting to really, I think, become much more
Labs.
particularly what we're focused on. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes, I'm dying to dig into it and really dive into labs and see what motivated you. What was the vision? Because you, as an entrepreneur, somebody been into media business and journalism and media and tech together, because they all go together, and been through it. You worked for one of the top, from Disney to a startup. So you kind of got the best of both worlds. So you know what's missing and what to avoid. Not many people get that kind of experience. You get to see the flaws and the challenges and how to avoid them and how to actually solve them.
Yeah, you definitely wear a lot of hats in a startup, and that still continues. But I think the focus for me has been, through my startup career, has been live streaming. And after I left New Zulu, I ended up going to Hulu and helped launch their live streaming platform. And then after Hulu got poached by a company that was one of the first live streaming entertainment apps in North America. And this afforded me the opportunity to do something I'd always wanted to do, which was international travel for business, because I think that really does open up a whole new world for you. And so I was going back and forth to Beijing and Los Angeles for a couple of years.
Correct, yes.
Before 2020, obviously before COVID. But then I ended up working very closely with Match Group, multinational dating conglomerate, Tinder, OkCupid.
Yes.
They wanted to.
The headquarters in New York, I think.
Yeah, they were part of Interactive Corp, which was Barry Diller's company, and then they were spun
Barry
off.
Diller,
and now they're
Oh, they did spun off?
Yeah, they spun off in 2020. And so basically they are located, I think their headquarters is in Dallas, Match Group. But they have a very strong presence, still in New York and Los Angeles. But that was fascinating. I mean, I think the app space has been my space for, almost a decade. But, that afforded me also the opportunity to understand virtual gifting, microtransactions, live entertainment, live streaming entertainment, and all the mechanics and all the things that go with that, the talent side of it, especially because I've actually been there and been talent, so I can appreciate, what they're going through. So Labs came about from essentially a joint venture between South Korean entity, a French entity, and a U.S. entity. So that's why it's an acronym. LAPS is L.A., Los Angeles, P, Paris, S, Seoul. So that basically spells out LAPS. And it was sort of essentially a new product line from Swim, which was a company that helped start almost 4 years ago. Originally, that was a Web 2 to Web 3 company, but now Laps is focused 100% on virtual influencers and digital doubles. And that's something that has been very much, I wouldn't say commonplace, but a lot more popular in other markets outside of North America for several years now. In particular, like Asia Pacific region, China, Japan, South Korea. So in the US, not as much, but there's a tremendous amount of growth opportunity here. Why is that? Because marketing budgets have been devoted so much to influencers, legacy influencers. And legacy influencers are amazing. They're personalities. You follow them. They have stories to tell, but they also have another side, which is very demanding, in many cases unreliable. They don't stick to the message that they're being essentially hired by the company to represent them. And let's not forget, very controversial. So these are things that are potentially, you can avoid completely with a virtual influencer because you have complete control over that. And that kind of goes back to why we formed this joint venture, because Los Angeles is still the gateway capital of the world for entertainment. You still have all the decisions made here. Everyone's still headquartered here. That's not going to change anytime soon, despite productions going on all over the world. And Paris is where our hardware is located for scanning the actual person into this avatar. So Seoul is a big component because, again, Seoul and South Korea in particular, South Korean entertainment has been at the forefront of our minds now for almost 2 decades. I mean, it started with Psy's Gangnam Style, the hit single that came out many years ago, to Parasite that won, Best Picture in 2019 Academy Awards. And we're very fortunate to have former CJ Entertainment, Dewey Kim, who is our COO and one of our founding members of the company, who helped launch, bands like BTS, Blackpink, huge K-pop powerhouses. And there's this formula and this recipe that exists within that South Korean entertainment ideology that isn't possible to find, I think, anywhere else in the world for a multitude of reasons. But they really are still at the forefront. I mean, just look at Netflix. They acquire so much of their content from South Korea. Squid Games, Culinary Class Wars. There's so many shows and series that are acquisitions. They're made there, and they're new to this audience, right? So that's what's great about other parts in the world, things that exist that are not as well known, that can be a monster hit here. So for us, Laps is now in a position where we are looking to expand our presence and have that hardware capability here in Los Angeles, because it's kind of necessary. I mean, if you want to have scale, that's what we're really going for, because otherwise we have to have people in Paris that are essentially scanned and ingested all the data to get them into being a digital double or a virtual influencer. So, digital doubles and virtual influencers, the way to break it down is digital double is I take you, Bob, I scan you, and then literally it's you, but the photorealism is, we believe, one of the best that you can find. And there's a lot of, I would say there's some players in this space that the quality just isn't there. Our production value is very, very high, and we pride ourselves on that. We have several patents for this as well. And so we want to make sure that is best representing the person that we're scanning, and that they're as lifelike as possible. And then virtual influencer is literally a personality that's created from scratch that doesn't exist at all in the real world. Little Michaela is a great example of that. That was a character created by ISCO that was essentially, it's part of our joint venture. And she's gone on to be one of the biggest virtual influencers, changing hands multiple times through different companies. And now she's just as popular as any other influencer that has millions of followers, but she's not real.
Amazing.
So there's a lot of opportunity there, and that's where we're headed. And it's an exciting time.
Is that what Labs really focuses on? More digital influencers?
Yeah, virtual
Wow.
influencers and digital doubles. Yeah, so we just got back from Vancouver Web Summit, the first Web Summit held in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, and we were really excited. The reception that we had, investors that came by were extremely interested, and this is something that we really believe is going to continue to grow.
So you see the future there in the digital
Yeah.
influencing and double.
Interoperable
Wow.
too, because it's not just something that eventually would like to be able to roll this out so that you have end consumer dashboard, but that's a little ways away. First we want to have the type of brands that a ambassador can represent them well, or a mascot, if you will, and then go beyond just doing VFX for studios, which is sort of what has been done by many occasions. So we really see that there's a lot of value there.
We earlier when we were talking, you mentioned something. You got to be careful when you enter that startup world or a new idea or a new venture. You cannot be too early. You cannot be late. You have to be. There's a really in this scenario, timing it is important. There's no luck. It's about timing, and so you feel that Labs really entered that perfect timing for it, or it started at a perfect timing.
Perfect is what is the enemy of good, right? I would say I don't know if there's ever a perfect time for anything, but it's a better time now than there was, than it was say a year ago or 2 years ago. We started to pivot in this direction last year, but officially made that in the fall of last year, and we realized that now it's just a lot more. The market is ready for it. I think now more than certainly it has been in the past. Especially if you look at like what studios are doing, they're clamoring for what do we do next? We're kind of out of options and out of ideas, and we need to have the highest possible value at the lowest possible cost. And how are we going to go about doing that? And the sovereignty of the IP of the character is extremely important. So this isn't something that we would own. If we were to say make a digital double of you own the rights to that. So essentially what we would do in that case is any type of brand deals that we're able to negotiate or work with you on, then we would get a percentage of that. So because what's happening, if you look at the current landscape of a lot of these actors, celebrities, athletes that have already they're created for, let's say, a movie or a video game, that asset, it may not even be around anymore, or has to be completely created all over again every time they're doing a deal with some other studio or some other company. And so if you can make it once, then that's interoperable and it can be plugged in anywhere, in perpetuity. So that's kind of where our vision is on that. It's important to have those rights, just as you have them yourself as for who you are. Like if you were to go to a traditional talent agency, you get to make that decision.
Blake, how do you came across this idea? I know you're not the only partner. Obviously, you have other partners. How many partners are you at Labs?
Well, there's three. There's essentially myself, our chief creative officer, Edo Van Morant, and then Yorgos Papadopoulos, who's our chief legal officer, and then Dewey Kim, who is our chief operating officer. So there's essentially three core founders, and then also a founding member. So it's essentially 3 to 4 of us, and certainly we can do this. Not one person can do this all by themselves.
Correct.
Really,
you need certain components. Everybody contribute something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think what really set it off for me was just growing up in an environment where I saw talent incubated and created, and working in an environment, for the first 10 years of my career at Disney, and seeing and being exposed to what it takes to, make something out of nothing, someone out of basically a nobody into
just
a
an idea. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you could argue you could do that. Oh, we could do that now with TikTok, for example.
Yes.
I mean, it is true to an extent, but they also, I think, are focused now. I mean, it's a very fragmented company, and it does move very, very quickly, but it has a lot of issues, as we all know, geopolitical issues, internal issues. However, they're more focused on e-commerce. I mean, they're kind of in that space where it's not uncommon to see Chinese companies. If one's in one, then others will try and pile in and try and become a market leader, because it's the thing to do. Just like AI, that must be the thing to do. So they're so focused on e-commerce right now that I don't know that they're going to be, say, looking at different alternatives that really captures their attention. They do a lot of things, but it's certainly a great platform to launch in. That goes without question. It definitely has a lot of exposure, and you certainly see that with discovery for artists and for musicians and for hosts and for fashion, music. There's definitely a lot of different formats that it applies to, but what we're doing is a bit different.
Amazing. Really amazing. Congrats. I always said you get involved in things that always ahead of its time, but this time you kind of, you came at a time where it's needed, and the expansion of AI. Well, first ever Avatar came in and say, this is it. This is the future. And then AI showed up. Well, it's been around, but it became more popular and said, hey, AI could create all these great videos, great movies, great characters, and beautiful, perfect, the way you want it. And your business was based on real characters, but as you said, Double will just kind of take you and then create a whole thing out of somebody that's already established in that digital arena out there, whether it's on social media, TikTok, Facebook Shorts, Instagram, Reels, and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, digital doubles
yes.
and virtual influencers. Yes. Those are our two primary focuses: digital doubles, virtual influencers.
Well, okay, digital double, and are these influencers the same, or are you creating brand new influencers?
So a virtual influencer is one that's created from scratch. Like that person does not exist at all.
And that's what you meant. You learned that at Disney, where just building something, a character or somebody out of nothing, and it became an icon, becomes an icon.
I was exposed to a lot, and I can see the former way of doing things and how that worked, and there's just has to be an evolution. And
yes,
if you don't evolve fast enough, then you're not going to be around. And so I think that's really important to have that type of dexterity and mobility to do that, and to not be so entrenched. And it's going to take, like it always does, another outside company. I don't think that, say, the entertainment industry, Hollywood in particular, is in a position now to do this. They're just looking for alternatives that are viable, that can really provide the kind of scale and flexibility that they really need. And that's not TikTok, right? That's because that would be sort of like the default thinking there and the logic. But the company that I work for was the precursor to TikTok. And ByteDance is a huge investor in that company, and it's not something that is unfamiliar to me at all. And there is a lot to be said, actually, for if you look at how companies move very quickly. I'd say Asian companies move faster than probably any other company that you would find, and it may not even be the right decision. It's moving forward with the type of strategy. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else, versus just waiting around. And there's been far too much waiting, actually, in many different industries. So you just have to go for it.
Amazing. What's next for your company, your venture? What's on the for Labs? What's next for 2025?
Yeah, well, we'd like to open a facility here in Los Angeles. That's what's our priority for this year, to have the right kind of partners to do that. Fortunately, we've have some definite strong interest in having investment to make that happen, because again, we're gonna need that to have the scale that it's going to necessitate for these companies to actually be able to say, oh, this looks very feasible. We can bring in our talent. We can have this done. We can start making content far more easily than we could have before. And, a lot of actors will appreciate it because they don't have to be at a crew call at 5 a.m, to show up on set, and be ready and put in a 12, 18-hour day. In a lot of cases like that, a lot of the logistics those barriers are removed, and it's all about removing barriers and roadblocks. Mm-hmm. So that's really going to be our big focus, is to have more of a established presence here in Los Angeles for this year.
So are you guys doing any funding? So obviously you're doing a series of funding right now.
Right.
And what's I don't know if you're able to talk about it. If you are, let's do it. If not, I totally get it. Are you able to talk about the funding?
Well, a little bit. I mean, we're essentially in our pre-seed round. We're focused on securing a couple different, we've managed to raise a significant amount of money, I'd say. But our burn is very, very low, and we have to keep it that way. We're very mindful of...
Very careful.
Yeah, because especially at this stage, it's very important. I think once we have the funding that's secured to expand our capabilities here, that's going to make a big difference, because right now we still are inhibited by geography, essentially. So once we have that, then we'll be able to scale up further, and we'd like to be able to see this really take shape in the next couple years. By the end of this decade, it should be off and running. I'd say with multiple locations. But I appreciate all the congratulations and kind words, but this has been a hell of a journey. I mean, this is not anything anyone should sign up for being an entrepreneur unless they know it's going to tax you like you've never been taxed before, in terms of just...
Well, I have to say, for somebody who's going through so much stress at a new venture and it has so much going on, you look great. Definitely look great.
Thank you.
You got to share your secret with us and the audience.
I think it's just staying active and reading. I mean, I read a lot. I probably read at least a book a week, and I try very, very hard to go beyond the screen. My gosh, that's probably the hardest thing to do in this industry.
What kind of books do you read?
Right now, I'm just rereading actually Anthony Bourdain's Medium Raw.
Yes.
I like to read a lot of nonfiction. I'm not a huge fiction guy. I like to focus on geopolitics and personal journeys. I'm a big lover of biographies, autobiographies, and I also
somebody who studied journalism. Yes, I could see that.
Yeah, because you want to know. And for me, I kind of cheat a little bit when it comes to reading biographies, because I tend to lose interest after they made it. I want to know. I want to know what it is that took them to.
You want to know the journey. Yes.
I want to know what it is. How did they get to that position? Like, I want to know all the nonsense that they had to go through, all the struggles, all the pain, all the suffering.
It's funny. A lot of people are interested if the other way around. The other way around. Well, they don't want to know what it took. Yes.
I think it's like, well, what are you going to do if you... It's like asking somebody, what are you going to do if you win the lottery? I mean, it's kind of the same answer for everyone, more or less. But,
yes.
But everyone's journey to get to that point is, and not everyone's willing to share it either, because they'll feel like that somebody else can take away that momentum or spotlight. I don't know, but and just working out. I try to work out just like you do, Bob. I mean, I try to work out at least 5 days a week. I'm fortunate that I live in a place like LA has great weather, and there's no excuse to not do that.
Everybody works out there. Everybody looks great. They bike, they hike, they run, CrossFit, gym, everything. High rocks. Yes, that's the newest thing now.
High rocks. Well, I don't know what that is. You have to tell me.
That's high the rocks. Kind of you got. It's the newer. It's kind of something was born out of CrossFit. It's not owned by CrossFit, but without the pounding, the weight pounding, more of the calisthenics, the certain things that CrossFit does, but it doesn't kind of impact your body the way CrossFit does. And I do CrossFit almost 3-4 days a week, so I do it myself. Wow. DIY CrossFit. I do my own thing. I done it, got injured, learned it, so I said I do it. What makes me, what really kind of suit my body. I still, there's a little ego, so I still go through that.
Yeah.
hurt myself here and there. Yeah.
But
Try
it's,
it. Hyrox is good. It's
okay.
the newest thing.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's
How is it
really kind of
spelled?
Hyrox. I think HY.
Okay.
Hyrox.
Okay.
Yes, HYRX. Yes.
Okay.
But it's very popular. I know in New York it is very popular in New York and probably in LA. But it's usually a lot of these things come out of these big cities. You know. Yes, but a lot of even the CrossFitters went there. This is because the impact, the weight, and the lifting a lot less. More endurance. Yes.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to have
There's one competition in Dallas actually. It was not too long
really?
ago. Big one, yeah. Hyrox, yes. Hyrox competition, yes, absolutely. I think about a week ago or so, recently. Yeah,
It's amazing. I need to actually do that because
that's it.
I've just been focused
You would
on
like
more
it.
on like Pilates, mat
Yes.
Pilates, reformer Pilates, kinesis, which is like the
Yes.
resistance weight training. It's pretty good. I just don't like to run. I mean, I know some people are all about it. It's not for
Hey,
me.
it's working for you as an entrepreneur. Obviously, kind of the mental calmness and health is very important, and I could see that you're sharing with our audience. Being an entrepreneur, it's really very important to kind of care for your health and
Yeah.
your mind. Your
Absolutely.
mind. It's
Getting enough sleep.
yes,
And,
yes.
and just taking a mental break and finding some time to meditate, even if it's going outside and just
Meditate.
switching off
Yes.
and just switching off completely.
Yeah.
You can constantly be bombarded with a box that's always going to scream at you, either in your hand or on your wall or in front of you on your desk. And it's just like, that it's definitely entertainment. We're in a place now where you can get it anywhere, anytime. But that should make one, I think, seek out alternatives more than they've ever done. And I think people are actually doing that. I mean, it's not like it's a secret, but it does have a lot to do with your mental health, for sure,
Absolutely,
and physical
yes.
health.
Mental health is very, very important, especially when you, have a vision and you're on a journey, and you need that strength. And mental health kind of produces physical health.
Absolutely.
Labs is a great, great venture and an amazing idea, and I'm sure you surrounded yourself with the right partners. And for any investors out there who might be interested and want to be on the board with Blake, something that really I would be honored even to get involved. I love what you always get involved in things that's extremely unique and visionary, and I would say extremely innovative. And I could see the future in this. I really could see the future. And you get the right partners now. You're no longer working for somebody. You are, being part of this, how to take this forward. And
Thank you, Bob.
if anybody interested, how they can get a hold of you. They say, hey, I want to invest.
Blake,
I want to
I'd
be in
say-
the board of directors and advisory.
I mean, I'm on
Of
LinkedIn.
Labs.
You could easily
Yes.
find me on LinkedIn. My profile's open. Also, you can
Blake Kuhre, like
Yep.
the basketball player. Yeah.
pronounced like the basketball player, not spelled that way. Definitely not with his net worth, at least not yet. But yeah, or the spice. That's another way I say pronounce it. But
Yeah.
or also Blake at laps-inc.com. That's our website as well. If you go to laps-inc.com, you'll see more about what we're doing and reimagining influence.
Amazing. This is really great. This is the future, I would say. And I'm sure a lot of these social media platforms will adapt labs to them, because would it be, now it's B2B, do you think the future will be B2C, where regular influencers come in to, let's say, to go to TikTok, because labs have a deal, let's say, with TikTok, and say, hey, I want to do my digital double platform, another platform beside the one I am hosting, or let it take some of the weight off me, of filming every day and curating content and doing all of that.
Yeah, that's down the road. B2B is going to be the focus, has been, for the next, I'd say, couple years. But definitely having that capability, opening that up to
B2C.
creators and
Because it's the future. Absolutely, Well, definitely we need to have you again on the show here when you
Thanks,
guys
Bob.
open up the LA office and get done with your, we didn't talk amounts, how much you guys raising, but I totally get it. But you guys looking for some serious investors who believe in the future and technology and the vision that you guys built and building more. Blake, it was definitely, my friend, great seeing you, great talking to you, and pleasure having you on Entrepreneurs in Tech, which is created by Innovate. Anything else you would like to say to our audience before we say goodbye? Definitely was an insightful, interesting, and amazing discussion with an entrepreneur.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. Thanks, Bob.
My pleasure. Well, be sure to connect with us on social media and keep innovating, stay curious, and just go for it, And from my discussion with Blake, yes, he likes to map things out, and that's very important, Write things down, check things off your bucket list or whatever you want to call it, and to-do list or things I want to do in life, and check one by one and do what's good for you. Blake, it was a pleasure. Thank you, my friend, and best of luck. And we're looking forward to see what next on Labs out there.
Thank you, Bob.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share. Innovate presents Entrepreneurs in Tech podcast. And if you're joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.